Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
I was passionate and still am about my business. So if I'm in a sales situation, I'm very passionate about it because I believe in it. We just grew word of mouth, marketing efforts, internally, externally. My partner was not interested in the payroll. Payroll is a very complex field, more so than people realize. Take that and take the responsibilities and the liability that goes with it and have your own firm.
My name is Barrett Young, and this is the Art of Succession podcast. My guest today is Charles Reed, CEO of Get Payroll in Dallas, Texas. Charles bought an accounting franchise in 1991 and has since grown and refocused it into a payroll company. Charles, welcome to the Art of Succession.
Barrett, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So I want to start off just asking, what brings you to talk about succession planning here on the Art of Succession? What really interested you in getting in front of my audience?
Well, it's the same reason I wrote my most recent book, is providing information to clients and potential clients is something that I like to do. Anything that adds to their education is great. Anything that puts us in front of potential clients is even better.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. So you are a CPA, a fellow CPA. How long have you been a CPA?
Let's see, this is 25, 47 years.
Okay. So about 10 to 15 years there working for other companies then as a CPA?
About 15 years in the corporate world.
Gotcha.
After I got my MBA, I went to work for Texas Instruments, and then I spent 15 years basically in the corporate world, large companies, small companies, turnaround startups, lots of wonderful experience. But I knew I was never going to get to the top of a major corporation. I don't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So if I was going to run a company, I was going to have to start my own.
Okay. Talk to me just about the landscape in 1991. Accounting franchises really aren't known that much anymore in the profession. So talk to me about what it was like in the late 80s and how you found an accounting franchise. And let's talk through that acquisition a little bit.
I have to say it was serendipity. I had finished my time at JCPenney's with a contract dispute. They wanted to void my contract and have me do other things, and I wasn't willing to do that. And my lawyer who was handling that had a friend who had Financial Express. It was a mobile accounting service.
Okay.
Like
to somebody's house and prepare their tax return kind of thing?
Go to their business. We had a vans that would go to the business, park in the parking lot, get the stuff, do the books, go over the financials with the owner and go on to the next one.
Okay.
And they needed a COO. So I went in and was working for Financial Express. The board was pushing the president to get rid of the original office and concentrate on franchising. So I said, hey, I'll buy it. And I did. Now, a year later, the franchisor went belly up, mismanagement, some picadillos, some other things going on that just weren't right. And so a year later, the franchisor disappeared. We just changed the name and kept on going. And that was over a third of a century ago.
So you were working there in one of these vans going, door to door, business to business.
I had two vans and another accountant, and was going to door to door. And every time I'd go to a client that I hadn't been to before, I'd pull the doors on every side just to hand out additional information, try and find clients, and marketed and did all the things. My wife and I started it together. So it worked. Work-life balance wasn't a problem because she was there as much as I was. But yeah,
Was she the other accountant, or was she
no,
like on an
she was the
admin kind of?
she was the admin and customer facing person. People liked her. She's a people person. Was. Uh, I'm an accountant. I mean, you understand. We're not people. We're numbers people. We're professional nitpickers. As long as I
Naysayers
promise,
and
yeah,
excitement
well,
dousers, all that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
As long as you've been to CPA conventions. 8 o'clock at night, they're all in bed. They don't go out and party. Okay, it's crazy at a CPA convention. There's no nightlife.
That's funny. Like I said, I haven't heard of accounting franchises. I mean, you've got like tax shops and stuff like that, like an H&R Block. I don't really consider those accounting franchises. I guess they are, but was this unique at the time? This
No.
kind of.
Well, American Express was trying to franchise accountants,
Hmm.
basically buy up accounting practices and have them practice under the American Express name. They got
Wow.
legally they got legally shut down because of that in several states and quit doing it. Uh, but this was a consolidation time. The Big Four was well, the Big Eight, the Big Ten was coming down to the Big Four, and there was a lot of turmoil in the accounting industry. There were people trying to do franchising. There were people trying to do bookkeeping franchises and act as accountants, and it
Hmm.
was it was a tumultuous time. And some succeeded, some didn't. Obviously, Financial Express went out of business.
Hmm.
They turned out that their marketing program was based on one individual, and it wasn't repeatable.
Hmm.
Uh, Robert was a unique individual and could sell the services and couldn't train anybody else in his style.
Mm.
And so that was the ultimate downfall of the franchise was marketing. We
Yeah.
tried all kinds of different marketing. We're fairly successful over the years. Not as much as I would have liked to have been, but I found out later on, 20 years later, when I finally hired a marketing person, that I couldn't market my way out of a paper bag. So I'm very pleased at what I was able to accomplish because when I hired that marketing person, I realized I didn't know shit. So
Hmm.
it was incredible.
Yeah, marketing tends to be the downfall for most firms, especially in succession planning, because that is the thing that a founder is really good at, relationships, all that kind of stuff, and never
Yeah,
really
because
thought to train somebody else to do that. So,
I was passionate and still am about my business.
hmm.
So if I'm in a sales situation, I'm very passionate about it because I believe in it. I think we provide an excellent product, excellent service, skill levels, all these things, and it shows.
Yeah,
Uh, but salesman, it's a little harder.
yeah, yeah. And you have a little bit more freedom as an owner to make deals and concessions and double down on something, take a hard line too, that is, it's hard to train somebody else. So,
Yes.
so the board was encouraging this guy to lean into the mobile business, and you wanted to buy the physical location. Is that?
That was, well, we had a physical office, but we were still mobile.
Oh, okay.
But we had, I think, 3 vans there, and I knocked it down to 2 when I bought it. Uh, but it was, you still have to have a physical base for a mobile service at that point in time.
Hmm.
This was long before the internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the email and the internet basically put mobile out of business because
Hmm.
there's just no need for it anymore. They can internet me, it's the ability to communicate is so much greater than it used to be.
Hmm.
Before I started this, I was in the footwear business and we did a lot of sourcing out of Taiwan. Once fax machines came in, we were able to get designs literally back and forth overnight.
Yeah.
We'd send them a design, they'd work on it we'd send it to them on our day, which is their night. They'd work on it in their day and fax it back to us, and we'd have it the next morning. And the turnaround went from 4 or 5 days each way to 12 hours.
Hmm.
And then once you put the internet in, uh, wow. I mean, there's just no need for on-site things like we provided anymore. There's just, we service payroll clients around the country. um, because it's all electronic now.
Yeah.
There's just no need for paperwork, physical paper. I mean, I've got to get a wet signature for a 2848, but that's about it.
Good old IRS still stuck in the fax machine days. So
Yeah, I was talking to an agent the other day. They still they're I swear they're the biggest user of fax machines in the country.
and paper checks still on many things. So yeah.
Yes.
So with the franchise, going under a couple months after you came in, what did that do to the acquisition deal? I mean, did it get renegotiated? Did it get wiped out? Talk a little bit about that, because that sometimes happens. So I
I
want
had
to hear.
formed a corporation, and we bought the assets of the original office. And with that was a royalty agreement.
Okay.
But when the office closed and they were providing no support, I quit paying royalties.
Mm.
We got a letter about a year later from an attorney, and I hired a franchise attorney, and we responded basically to the extent, since we're not receiving any services
They've
and we're receiving
defaulted. Yeah.
no support, you have abrogated the agreement. We are not going to pay any royalties. And my attorney said to the actual attorney that wrote the letter, since you know all of this, should you continue to pursue this, we will seek sanctions against you personally.
Hmm.
We never
Okay.
heard from him again.
Put that to bed real quick. So,
That was the end of it.
uh,
Now, cautionary tale, about 4 months later, my attorney called me and said, have you heard anything? I said, no, I haven't heard a thing. He said, great, let me know if you do. He sent me a bill for that phone call.
well, of course. Yeah, absolutely. He thought it was done, but he was checking in. So, yep.
Yeah.
All right. So you find yourself now the owner of an accounting company, still doing the mobile thing. Still you and one other accountant at this point?
At that point, he'd moved on.
Okay.
I was doing all the work.
Mm-hmm. Still doing books for companies on a monthly basis then?
Yes, a lot of monthly accounting. Obviously, taxes in tax season. Um, Mostly corporate taxes and the owner's taxes.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't a retail tax shop. I had no interest in being a retail tax shop and competing with, H&R Block and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
They can't do corporate taxes worth a damn, so they weren't competition in where I really wanted to be, which was business to business.
Gotcha. Yep. So just anybody listening, this means he wasn't just doing anybody off the street 1040 only tax returns, sticking to the business owners, the ones that really need tax planning too, have more complicated situations.
Right.
So
And much more higher bills and so on. The only simple ones I do would be the owner's kids.
mm-hmm. Yep.
So you say, can you take care of Larry's? Yeah, fine.
W-2. Yeah.
$25 and move on. I mean, just boom.
Yep.
But that's not the business I wanted. But when the client's generating $600 or $800 a month in fees, and he wants a little 1040 tax return done, sure, not a problem, Joe. We'll be glad to take care of it for you.
Yep. Yep. Gotcha.
I don't want him to talk to another tax guy or another CPA.
Yeah. So, have you acquired any other companies since then, or is that the extent of your own personal experience through acquisition? Talk me through that a look. I know you've walked other clients through this, but was any of your growth over the past 30 years through acquisition?
No, we looked at several firms. I'd taken on a partner in the accounting firm a few years later,
Okay.
and we looked at another accounting firm, or actually several in town, and got very close, but it just never came to the final. We had one that we were all set on. We negotiated a lower price than his initial ask, and we were all set to sign. And somebody else came in and said, "I'll buy it for what you're asking for it." So he said, "Okay."
Yeah.
And it did not go well because the guy didn't know what he was doing, but it was too late at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And CPAs hard to deal with.
So
they,
what?
they they like secrecy and so on and so forth. So but no, we didn't buy anybody else. We just grew uh, word of mouth, marketing efforts, internally, externally. Um, we're not as big as I would have liked, but it was a good living.
Hey there. We're coming up on the end of season 2 of The Art of Succession, and July brings our 1 year anniversary of the show as well. I hope that you've enjoyed the changes that I implemented in season 2. I've gotten some really good data from the algorithm just to see how people have been responding to that. For season 3, I've got some other ideas, but I really want to connect with you as a listener. So down in the description below, you'll find a link to my calendar. I've got space for 5 listeners who are available to book a 5 to 10 minute Zoom call with me. I really just want to talk with you, meet you, and find out what brings you to the Art of Succession, when you listen to the show, and what you enjoy about it as I look to season 3 and beyond of the show. If you don't have the time to book that, I understand. I also have a Google form down there that you can fill out and just leave your feedback for the show as well. I want to thank you for being with me on this journey so far. I'm looking forward to the season 3 launch and the new guests that I'm going to be bringing to you. And let's get back to that episode. What was the purpose of bringing on another partner a couple years later, just to double the people sign-in returns kind of thing?
Too much business. I had more business than I could handle. So I had to expand the professional staff. So I brought on, we tried a couple and some worked, some didn't. We had a very nice young man that he used to mow my lawn and he became a CPA and he worked for me for a couple of years and then moved on to another bigger position because we were a small company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked for a partner and I looked for a CPA and I liked Robert. And so we made an agreement and I sold him part of the firm. And then I made him a full partner and it was an equal partnership. And then when the money wasn't enough for him, and I was moving into the payroll, I sold him the rest of the accounting practice here about 10 years ago and kept all the payroll and moved solely into the payroll business. The only taxes I do anymore are my own company's, multiple companies' taxes, my personal taxes, and a few friends. And I'm getting out of the friends. I'm getting tired of that.
Okay, so you ran an accounting company for the good majority of the history,
For about 20 years,
2/3 of the lifetime so far of the business. So, what was it about payroll because that's a long time with a lot of established clients. I mean, you've had clients for probably all 20 of those years that you're now like, I'm not going to do your taxes anymore. You're going over to this guy. What was it that you started to see shift in your interest or in the business model? Or because just for listeners' context, most CPA firms would shut down the payroll or sell off the payroll or move out of the payroll and stick with the taxes, because payroll tends to be a lower profit center, tends to be a higher headache center. And so that's how most people would look at it. So you took the opposite tact with that. Why was that?
Well, my partner was not interested in the payroll. I actually was. I enjoy that. It's really business to business. Payroll is a very complex field, more so than people realize.
Yeah.
And we were moved into multiple states. So we are now operating in the mid 90s with the internet. We started to pick up clients all over the country. And to me, it was much more fascinating. I'd spent, many, many years in the accounting field and the payroll field was new to me and much more interesting. I was grass was greener.
Yeah.
And so it was more fun. So since I needed to move income to Robert, I moved the accounting to him and I kept the payroll and we split the firm. Now, all the clients were basically familiar with Robert because I had been starting to concentrate more on payroll internally. So most of them knew who Robert was and he was doing a lot of the taxes already. Diana was working for us part-time. She was an interesting hire. She'd been a full-time CPA at Brinker International.
Okay.
and had her first baby and wanted to work part-time, and they wouldn't hire her part-time.
Hmm.
So she came looking, and I found her and hired her immediately. And a few months later, Brinker came and said, well, we'd kind of like to have you part-time now. And she said, no. And she still works for us now. God, 20, let's see, Drew is 26 or 27. And she came to us when he was 3 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So she was there too. But so the transition of the accounting over to Robert and Diana went with him, went very smoothly. We were doing a lot of both accounting and payroll for the same clients, of course.
Yeah.
So we just split it up in the billing. We had always billed it separately anyway. So it wasn't a big change for them to just call me for payroll and them to call Robert for accounting and tax.
Mm-hmm.
It was now Robert lost 3 clients because Robert is, as much as I am a CPA and not a people person, Robert is more so.
Person. Oh,
He's
worse.
not a people person. I mean, Robert's a great accountant and a great tax man, ex-IRS agent, very knowledgeable, very experienced, a nice guy, family guy. I like Robert, but it's hard to hold a conversation with him unless it's tax. So, yeah, he lost a couple of clients because he was, you remember Joe Friday and Dragnet? Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
That's all he wanted to talk about.
That's all he wanted. He didn't, that he's gotten better over the years, but the fact that you had kids and one of them was sick and the baby was ill, just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just the facts.
So I imagine then you weren't Get Payroll until this time, right? So he took the name of the company, the majority of the clients, and you took the ones that were payroll only.
Yes.
Or, had payroll that you guys were working on.
Exactly.
What
now,
other
go ahead. We continue to, if I have a payroll client that needs accounting, I send them to him. If he has an accounting client that he's picked up that needs payroll, he sends them to me. Until we sold the building here last November, we still office together.
Oh, okay.
I built a building 25 years ago, and that's where he officed. And after we sold the firm, he just rented an office from me, and we talk on a daily basis.
Okay. So still pretty closely tied then on that one.
Oh, very much. It was very amicable.
How else did you structure? I mean, what other approaches did you take, having had this experience buying a franchise from somebody who was kind of like a peer and a friend, it seemed back in 91? What steps did you take in this split to make a definitive line, to be clear about revenue and be clear about, cost sharing and things like that?
Okay, the cost sharing was a specific contract. He would rent office space and equipment, and we would provide certain services for a fee. The one thing I didn't put into it was the ability to raise the fee. Okay, it was just a flat fee. And of course, as our costs went up over the next 10 years, we should have been able to raise it. We had no mechanism to do that. And frankly, it wasn't that big of a deal. So I just never did. We came to a very comprehensive contract on what business went where and what clients and so on. So it was, and again, we'd worked together. We were partners. It was a very amicable split. I mean, this was not forced or driven. I offered, he'd come to me and was talking about, setting up his own firm because he needed more revenue and so on. And he was I was still taking revenue off of what he was doing. Okay, because I'd really moved into payroll and he was really doing almost all of the tax and accounting, and I was still taking a cut. And so I basically said, here, you can keep my cut, you can have the firm, and I'll take all the payroll and we'll just move on that basis. And that was all he wanted. So it just was just worked. Uh, it was a very, and I was ready. I knew I wasn't doing much work in the accounting side, but still getting income off of it. And that was fine. I didn't mind that. But, he was right. He was doing the work. He should get the income.
Mhm.
So, okay, fine. Take that and take the responsibilities and the liability that goes with it, and have your own firm. So we had set up Reed and Shahan at one point, and I just sold him the stock in it, and he became the sole stockholder in the corporation.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's great that it was amicable and everything worked out there. That's definitely not the case, especially with something so closely tied together like that. Were there any conflicts or were there any warning signs that had you been an advisor to this relationship, you would have told a client, watch out for this, or, be
Yeah,
careful
I
of
mean,
this?
you can't keep taking money out of the firm and not do any work in it.
Mm,
Okay. That's not going to work over time. It's not like you've put up a major asset that they're using or something like that. You're just taking a cut of the revenue, and not doing any of the work.
yeah.
And that's not going to work in a professional uh, operation where it's professional skills and effort that's creating the money. It's not like you have capital invested that's needed and so on and so forth. So that was an obvious. I was not surprised at all when he brought it up.
Hmm.
I,
Was
I
that,
knew it was I knew it was coming.
I mean, was that defined for a term or was that a dollar amount, that earn out that he was basically paying you for,
I was taking 25% of the revenue.
but for a certain number of years or just
That
into
was just an ongoing
perpetuity?
thing.
Okay.
That's how it was. And he got so he resented a little bit. And when he said something, I said, I understand, not a
Yep.
problem. He paid me uh, one times revenue plus outstanding AR
To get out of the lifetime annuity
to to
effectively.
to, to buy the book of business.
Yep.
Uh, and I'd sold him half of it based on that same revenue, that same formula earlier on. He bought in for 25%, then 50%, and then we used the same terms to go 100%. Could I have insisted on something more onerous? Absolutely. Could I have said, no, not going to sell it to you, goodbye? Yeah, I could have done that too, but what purpose?
Yeah.
It was a time and place. I was ready. He was ready. He wanted to run his own firm fully
Hmm.
and not have to put up with a partner, and I understand that.
And so how long into that split 10 years ago did that conversation happen? Because you guys continued to work with each other or next to each other for a while, sharing
Well,
business
yeah,
and
we
such.
we 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 worked in the same offices for another 10 years.
So, I
Uh,
mean, but was that within 2 years of that happening? He said,
no,
this isn't
I
working.
I would I would say that from when he brought it up, it was 90 days before it was done.
Sorry, but how long did it take him to bring it up before that split?
Oh, 6, 8 years.
Okay.
From the time he
So it
became
went for a
a half
while.
partner. It was quite a while. He was very happy being half. But as I was working out of doing the accounting and more into the payroll, I think he began to resent that a little bit that I was still taking, as much of the revenue.
I want to thank my guest, Charles Reed, for sharing his story and the discussion so far. If you've enjoyed this, you can find part 2 right here. In that part, we're going to get into the specifics of narrowing his focus and refining what it means to be a payroll only company. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.